Welcome to the Gaggle, where we talk politics in Arizona and beyond. This week, Congressman Trent Franks exits stage left, and the Goldwater Institute is all up in the ESA legislation. But we start with an effort to increase funding for schools. Ricardo, you're writing about that. What's going on?
So, a group of prominent Arizona business leaders announced this week that they intend, one way or another, to allow voters to decide on the renewal and expansion of Proposition 301 in 2020. So Prop 301 is this 6/10 of a cent sales tax that goes toward education. What they're proposing is a 1.5 cent sales tax, which would add $900 million a year more for the state schools, universities. A significant amount of that would go toward making kindergarten a full-day grade, and for teacher pay, which is obviously one of the popular reasons cited for the state's persisting shortage of qualified teachers. So at a breakfast gathering Tuesday, they laid out their plan. They said they would prefer to have the legislature refer it to voters, but if that doesn't happen, they are willing to raise the $2 million necessary to get the signatures and put it on a ballot through an initiative.
Well, we're talking about Trent Franks. Everybody knows he's resigned. What are we hearing about the allegations now? Anything new?
There's still drips and drabs about allegations that had been made in years past, and those are sort of hanging questions. There's nothing that's come out of late on this, and presumably there's still some interest in getting more detail on what happened previously. But at this point, I think people are sort of turning the page and looking ahead to what comes after him in that district.
And what comes after him in that district?
Good question. There's a lot of Republican lawmakers at the legislature and some in the business community who are weighing their own chances. Right now we have folks like Debbie Lesko, Steve Montenegro, Kimberly Yee.
There's Lloyd Brown.
Right. Floyd Brown.
Floyd Brown.
Right. So there's a host of characters.
Probably a Lloyd Brown too.
There is.
Just need to look for it on the list.
And Bob Stump. We can't forget the corporation commissioner. So there's a whole lot of folks who have an interest in this seat. It's really sort of seen as a once-in-a-generation kind of thing. If you can win the primary for the Republicans, you probably hold the seat for the foreseeable future.
Ballot's going to look like the phone book.
Huh.
Good luck. All right, you're going to win with what, 5, 10, 15% of the vote in the primary?
Help me out, Mom.
All right, Yvonne, you wrote about the Goldwater Institute's efforts to influence the Empowerment Scholarship Account law going all the way back to 2011 when it was first passed. What did you find?
We found that even after they offered model legislation and language for lawmakers down here at the state capitol for the program to be expanded over the years, they were reaching into the executive branch and really trying to dictate how the program was implemented. This came really as even a surprise to many Republican lawmakers, some who supported it and some who didn't, who thought that the group's involvement kind of began and ended at the state Capitol. They were really interested in our findings, and there's a lot of interest in looking at these emails themselves.
And what exactly did they want? What are some of the types of changes? Or
I mean, very generally, it appeared as though they wanted as few restrictions as possible on the program. They did not, they took issue with some of the rules and procedures that state officials were implementing to try to ensure that there really was accountability in some instances with the spending. They wanted, them to be able to just deposit money into college savings accounts and then challenged them, for example, on why they would need to see how that money was spent after those deposits had been made.
So what are you watching for this week, Yvonne?
I am interested if the Republicans are going to come up with a game plan on how to deal with the ESA expansion this session.
Ron?
Trent Franks district, we want to see who else jumps in or says, I'm out.
Are we going to lose another congressman?
We'll see. Stay
All
tuned.
right. Ricardo?
State's teacher shortage. We're getting ready to put out a story just that will say that school districts have issued over 1,000 emergency teaching certificates so far this year. These certificates require a bachelor's degree, but also allow teachers or applicants to bypass, nearly every certification requirement put in place to ensure that they're qualified.
That's it for the Gaggle. We'll be back next week.